You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Moser. Nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday, the 29th of August. Labour councillor attacks woman. G4S booted out of Pakistan and also incurred tremendous losses in Britain. Robots to repair coral reefs in Scottish waters. Serving soldier from Botswana denied citizenship over traffic offence. Forest fires force evacuation of parts of Madrid. Germany's defiance of Eurobonds could lead to inflation in Germany. Isaac on course for New Orleans. Thought for the day, all for one and one for all. And finally, a new star. UK news. A Labour councillor has appeared in court after being charged with assaulting an unnamed woman. Labour councillor Judith McMahon of Kersal Ward was charged with attacking a woman in a house in Pleasant Road in Southend. McMahon, who lives in that road and represents Kersal Ward, was arrested and charged shortly after the incident took place on Tuesday. She remained in a police cell until her court appearance a day later. She did not enter a plea. The security firm G4S has said it had lost £50 million in the security fiasco during the Olympics this summer. G4S is also handling the Paralympics and it is hoped they fare better with them than the Olympics. They are also conducting an internal review after its failure to provide all of the 10,400 contracted guards for the London 2012 Olympics, which forced the government to step in with military personnel. The group said it had delivered 83% of the contracted shifts and that it was confident the Paralympics Games, starting tomorrow, would be fully staffed with a security workforce. However, reports from Karachi state that G4S are being closed down in Pakistan, where they operate under the name Wakanhut Pakistan Limited, owing to a crackdown from the Pakistani government in Islamabad on foreign security companies. The chairman of the Pakistani operation, Ikram Sehgal, said that G4S were forced to leave the country because of the negative attitude of the Pakistani government. Robots are said to repair the cold water coral reefs off the Scottish coast. The robots, nicknamed Coral Bots, will repair coral deep in Scottish waters up to 200 metres below the surface. These repairs are normally carried out by scuba divers, but in this case the depth is too great for humans. These cold water corals are under constant attack from bad weather and fishing fleets. Poloko Hiri, 32, has served with the British Army for 4 years with an exemplary record, but is now facing deportation back to Botswana because of a minor traffic offence, according to the UK Border Agency. UKBA rules that the soldier should be placed in the same slot as murderers, drug dealers, rapists and other undesirables. He has been ordered to leave the UK by next Friday. Sapper Poloko, who lives in Leeds and has a 6-month-old baby girl, applied for British citizenship in April this year, well ahead of his date of leaving the army, the 31st of August. His bid was rejected because of a minor speeding offence. The army is concerned that if returned to Botswana he could be arrested and prosecuted because it is an offence in Botswana to join a foreign army. A World at 8 reporter comments, "It seems very unfair that the UKBA failed to deport real criminals who are not only illegal but consistently offend, and I'm including the Muslim clerics here, and yet they want to deport this man who has fought for our country. I would like to know what the border agency is thinking of." Euronews. Forest fires have forced the evacuation of areas west of Madrid, the capital in Spain. Over 2,000 people have been forced to leave their homes and local roads have been closed. Authorities believe the fires have been started by several people working in a gang. Firefighters have also demonstrated against the austerity measures in Catalonia after Catalonia have asked for a €5 billion bailout recently, and these cuts will affect the fire service amongst many other services. Put this with the forest fires and Spain is not having a good time at present. Italian Prime Minister Mario Monti has warned that Germany's current views on the Eurobonds could put Germany into an inflation crisis. The advice comes over the German defiance over blocking the European Central Bank from acting on other countries' borrowing costs. Mario Monti is to meet with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel today over the disastrous Eurozone crisis. World News. The approach of Hurricane Isaac is awaited with bated breath in New Orleans today. The new $14.5 billion defences and extra pumps that have been put in place have only provided mental security for half the inhabitants. Several years ago, a devastating hurricane, Katrina, totally destroyed most of New Orleans, resulting in the then President Bush to ask for help from around the world for the very first time. So far, Hurricane Isaac has sent the heavy rain across New Orleans and thrown winds of up to 80 miles per hour as it makes its journey inland. Other Gulf Coast towns and cities are being hit by the hurricane as it moves towards Louisiana. A World Today writer commented, "In the media, President Bush was slated over his handling of Katrina, but in truth no president has any jurisdiction to help unless called upon by the then mayor of New Orleans or the governor of Louisiana, which they didn't do in time over Katrina. So what happens with Isaac remains to be seen." The Syrian army is reported to have been dropping a series of leaflets over the rebels who are trying to overthrow President Assad. The leaflets apparently read, "Abandon your weapons and leave or face inevitable death." Thousands of the leaflets were dropped by aircraft over the city of Damascus, where heavy fighting still continues. A World Today reporter commented, "This shows the presidential forces are at least doing more to save lives than the rebels. They have been warned. Rebels are just that, rebels, not forces for democracy." Thought for the day. One for all and all for one. Well, this is the Musketeers theme, isn't it? And you would think that the media would treat certain cases the same way. They do not. Apart from the tremendous bias against white people and the even larger arse-licking of people of colour and the Muslim persuasion, this case I'm speaking of now just about takes the biscuit. There was a whole 2-page spread in the Mail this Saturday telling the story about Shamima and Gary. Now this article, whether one likes it or not, certainly whipped up anti-Muslim feeling, and to some extent quite rightly. Her story is harrowing enough, but in comparison with many untold stories which have never seen the light of a printer's day, it is not really. Now Shamima hails from Basingstoke in Hampshire, in fact quite near to where I reside. She was part of an, as usual, mainly siblinged Muslim family, complete with all the rules and regulations of living one's religion. Well, Islam anyway. The youngest of 6 children. Ever heard of the pill, mateys? She was born in London. Her father came here when he was 4 and had an arranged marriage with a bride brought over from Bangladesh. Going well, isn't it? The upshot of her story is that when she kissed a white boy, in fact Gary Payne, who was a work colleague, at her 18th birthday party, she was attacked by 3 of her siblings who punched and slapped her and cut off her waist-length hair. She certainly fared better than Shafilia Ahmed, who was killed by her parents though. She has cut all ties with her family and now lives with Gary. Apparently family life was quite amenable until her elder sister Nazira, one of the siblings who attacked her, had a terrible row with her new husband on their wedding night in Bangladesh, an arranged marriage of course, and fled back to England and her parents. Shamima was only 12 when this happened, but the atmosphere at home apparently changed. Of course it would. Nazira, leaving her new husband in Bangladesh, had committed 2 awful sins. 1, she had run away from an arrangement made between 2 families for many years, and 2, she had denied her new husband and his family the means to come over to the UK and live. Over the next few years Shamima was apparently living in a hellhole and was not allowed to do anything or go anywhere. The parents obviously did not want the same thing happening again. On her 18th birthday her parents were in Bangladesh, probably arranging yet another marriage for her, and she was allowed to go to dinner with colleagues. Her siblings told her they would come to get her, and they saw her kissing Gary in the car park. She and Gary were attacked there, and we know the rest. The 3 siblings were given a conditional discharge and a fine. She is glad to have had the chance to speak out, but will things change? Of course not. We have for the most part entire clans living double lives and double cultures. They live and make money out of the UK. However, in their minds and hearts they are still in an Islamic country living under Islamic law. They often have homes in Pakistan and Bangladesh and live and travel to suit themselves. How can we grant British citizenship to people who think nothing of this country and still adhere to their old customs and homes is beyond me. The thing that did get my goat was the fact that this girl, however wronged, got a huge spread in a national paper, whilst thousands of young white girls who have had their lives ruined every day of every year in this country by Muslim youths have never been allowed to tell their story in print in a national paper. It has never happened. It should be allowed. It should be told. If it was told in the correct manner with the correct names and dates, then the average Brit would at last know that we the nationalists are not jumping on bandwagons but are in fact whistleblowers and have been for many years. I read the other day that even CROP, the Coalition for the Removal of Pimping, is dumbing down the Muslim aspect of this pernicious grooming which is still going on. Even they are too gutless to actually name and shame these groomers. A very few have been brought to so-called justice, but not many, and they do not face deportation after their sentences have been served, or their families, who ignore their husbands, sons and brothers. Islam is a man's world regardless of what these men get up to. We whites are fair game. We in the UK, unlike some parts of Europe, are plagued with the three monkeys of authority. Hear no anti-Muslim facts, see no Muslim wrongdoing, and speak of no Muslim crimes. So I challenge the Daily Mail to publish stories of underage non-Muslim girls being groomed, raped and pimped out, and the resultant devastation of their lives and their families' lives. The wrecking ball of Islam and its culture colliding with our Western ways and still making money out of it and remaining hidden. Quite a task really. But I suppose not with our gutless councils, many members of which are of course Muslim. Even these girls and their parents never tell the whole truth. They've been frightened by the police and have their own stories gone over and worded in such a way that the Muslim-ridden Crown Prosecution Service will accept. They never state that 99.9% of this form of sexual grooming is carried out not by members of the Asian community but by the Muslim community. Very rarely do they name the prime groomer and probably cannot know the names of those that follow. These girls and their families are threatened with violence if they tell. It was considered okay for Shamima to tell on her siblings because she is a Muslim, but if a white girl had been attacked, you would never have heard about it. The authorities are more racially motivated than anyone they seek to call racist, as are the newspapers. East will always clash with West. If girls like Shamima have trouble with their own, imagine what the indigenous inhabitants of the UK have and are never allowed to speak of. The trouble with Islam? There's only one trouble with Islam, and that it is over here, not where it should be, over there. And finally, an exploding star known as a supernova has been discovered by an Irish amateur astronomer from his garden shed. David Grennan took photos of the galaxy and discovered the amazing event and photographed it. The event was actually taking place over 123 million light years away in the Lynx constellation. This presenter says that Lynx deodorant should get onto that one. A new star is born. Sorry. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart.
For New Orleans. Thought for the day, all for one and one for all. And finally, a new star. UK news. A Labour councillor has appeared in court after being charged with assaulting an unnamed woman. Labour councillor Judith McMahon of Kersal Ward repaired coral reefs in Scottish waters. Serving soldier from Botswana denied citizenship over traffic offence. Forest fires force evacuation of parts of Madrid. Germany's defiance of Eurobonds could lead to inflation in Germany. Isaac, on course, was charged with attacking a woman in a house in Pleasant Road in Southend. McMahon, who lives in that road and represents Kersal Ward, was arrested and charged shortly after the incident took place on Tuesday. She remained in a police cell until her court appearance a day later. She did not enter a plea.
Number 1 in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday, the 29th of August. Labour councillor attacks woman. G4S booted out of Pakistan and also incurred tremendous losses in Britain. Robots to